Welcome back to another deep dive, and this time we're taking a closer look at something you brought to the table.
Yeah, this one really caught my eye.
The Keeper of Stars by Buck Turner.
It's an Audible audiobook, and just from glancing at the page, it promises a really captivating story.
Definitely. And like always, we're going to unpack all the information available on this Audible page. Think the description, publication details, those revealing customer reviews, even the categories.
All of that is going to help us understand what this book is all about, what makes it tick.
Exactly. And as always, you know we're all about delivering the most valuable insights to you, the learner. We want to get to the heart of this story, see how it's resonated with other readers.
And ultimately try to determine if it's something you'll find intriguing.
All without taking up too much of your precious time. So let's jump right in. First things first, what's the central premise of The Keeper of Stars?
Okay, so the story revolves around this astronomy professor, Dr. Elizabeth Spencer, usually goes by Ellie. The year is 1962, and she receives a very unexpected package. A novel written by her first love, Jack Bennett.
A novel written by her first love.
But here's the real kicker. The novel is a recounting of their own past romance. A relationship that, from what we gather, ended quite abruptly.
Wow, talk about a blast from the past. I mean, can you imagine receiving a novel from a former love only to find it's about your own relationship?
Definitely a unique premise. And as Ellie starts reading, she uncovers this hidden detail, something quite significant that causes her to question everything she thought she knew about their time together.
Well, there's got to be more to that. What kind of detail could make her reevaluate everything?
That's the mystery that unfolds, right? And this detail becomes a catalyst for Ellie. It compels her to seek answers.
Answers about their relationship, sure. But the description hints at something else, something a bit darker.
You're picking up on it. The discovery in the novel doesn't just send Ellie down memory lane. She also starts digging into the circumstances surrounding her aunt's death.
So there's a dual narrative here. You've got this rediscovered romance playing out alongside a potential mystery. I'm already hooked.
Me too. So for you, the learner, we have two intriguing threads. A past love brought back to life through a novel.
And a family death shrouded in mystery.
Makes you wonder, how are these two threads connected?
Absolutely. Now, let's switch gears for a moment and look at the genre and themes. What does the Audible page tell us about where The Keeper of Stars fits in the literary landscape?
All right, so the main categorization for the book is literature and fiction, specifically world literature, with a focus on the United States, particularly the southern region.
Southern literature, okay.
And if we dive deeper into the subcategories, we find it listed under Southern United States literature and, interestingly, 20th century historical romance within Audible books and originals.
Historical romance, got it. So we're looking at a story set in the American South with a heavy emphasis on romance.
Precisely. Now, based on these categories and what we know about the plot, what themes do you think might emerge?
Well, considering it's historical fiction set in the South, I'd expect themes around family legacy, the impact of the past on the present, maybe some social commentary on the time period.
All valid points. And then there's the romance element. The historical romance tag strongly suggests that we'll see themes of love enduring through time, perhaps second chances, maybe even love transcending social barriers, classic romance tropes, but set against a specific historical backdrop.
Definitely. And those themes seem to resonate with readers, too.
They do. Many of the customer reviews describe The Keeper of Stars as a sweet and romantic story, often drawing comparisons to The Notebook.
The Notebook. That's a pretty powerful comparison, setting a certain expectation for a deeply emotional, perhaps even heart-wrenching love story.
Exactly. The frequent mention of The Notebook tells us a lot about the kind of emotional impact readers have experienced with this book. And this aligns perfectly with the key themes that consistently pop up in reviews. First and second chance romance, the enduring power of love, and how the past shapes our present lives.
Sounds like a recipe for some serious emotional engagement. Now, before we dive deeper into what readers are saying, let's get the practical details out of the way.
Sure. So if you're thinking of listening to this audiobook, here's what you need to know. It's an unabridged recording, clocking in at 7 hours and 52 minutes of listening time. The narrator is Elizabeth Phillips, and it was released fairly recently on August 16th, 2023.
Okay, so relatively new. And who's the publisher?
Interestingly, the publisher listed is Buck Turner himself.
So he's both the author and the publisher. That's a pretty independent route.
It is, and that might be something that appeals to you, the learner. Knowing that the author has that level of direct involvement in bringing the story to listeners, it often signals a very personal story.
Yeah, it makes you wonder, what is it about this story that made him decide to take on both roles?
And one more detail, it's labeled as Book 1 of 2 in the Keeper of Stars series.
A series, so there's more to come in this world.
Precisely. This first book is likely just the beginning of a larger narrative arc, and some characters or themes might carry over into the next installment.
Now, on to the part we always find most fascinating, the customer reviews. What's the general consensus? Are people loving The Keeper of Stars?
The overall reception is overwhelmingly positive. It's got a 4.6 out of 5-star rating based on a whopping 18,164 global ratings.
Wow, that's a lot of reviews, meaning a lot of people have listened to this book and felt compelled to share their thoughts. And with a 4.6 rating, it's safe to say they're mostly positive thoughts.
Absolutely. Words like captivating, heartwarming, lovely read pop up a lot. Many reviewers praise the writing style as easy to follow, and they consistently highlight the well-developed characters. There's this recurring sentiment that the story has a certain timeless quality to it.
So we've got a captivating storyline, engaging writing, and relatable characters. Sounds like a winning combination. What else are reviewers raving about?
Many go beyond those basics and praise the story quality, readability, and the author's writing style specifically. Some find the story particularly realistic and engaging, which are always great qualities in fiction. And, in line with the Notebook comparisons, numerous reviewers talk about the emotional impact. Some mention shedding a few tears, others highlight the moments that made them smile.
So it's a story that can make you feel a whole range of emotions.
It seems so. And the development of the characters is another high point. Listeners consistently feel a connection to them, which always makes for a more immersive experience.
Speaking of the Notebook, those comparisons keep popping up.
Yeah.
Do reviewers elaborate on why they see that connection?
Yeah, several reviewers delve into the specifics. They mention the similar storyline of a boy and girl from different walks of life falling in love, but facing obstacles that tear them apart. The enduring hope for a reunion later in life is another common thread.
So for those who enjoyed the Notebook, The Keeper of Stars might offer a similar emotional journey.
That's the impression we get from the reviews. But of course, no book is universally loved. Did you come across any contrasting opinions or criticisms?
I did. Not many, but a few stood out. One reviewer mentioned that they usually avoid books with graphic, intimate content, but they still enjoyed the overall love story and simply chose to skip those particular sections.
It's always helpful to have that heads up.
Totally. What other criticisms did you find?
Another reviewer, while finding it cute and wholesome, thought the pace was a bit slow. They called it old school, which may or may not be a negative, depending on your preferences.
True. A slower pace isn't necessarily bad, but it's good to know going in. Anything else?
This same reviewer also pointed out some religious undertones and questioned the consistency of the timeline and a few plot points.
So a gentler pace, a more traditional approach to romance, and maybe some minor inconsistencies in the plot for some readers.
Exactly. And there was one more interesting perspective. This reviewer appreciated that the story covered the entirety of the love story.
You mean it didn't leave any loose ends or unanswered questions about their future?
Right. This person felt it provided a sense of closure. And interestingly, they mentioned how the book made them reconsider their own views on making sacrifices in relationships.
That's pretty impactful. A story that sparks personal reflection.
It is. And speaking of personal connections, one reviewer who's a native of Sevier County, Tennessee, really loved how the setting around Douglas Lake added another layer of enjoyment to the story.
So for those familiar with the area, that local flavor could enhance their reading experience.
Definitely. Now, shifting our focus to the related titles section, what can we glean from the recommendations offered on the Audible page?
Right, so the page suggests several other books by Buck Turner. Titles like The Long Road Back to You, Promises, Promises, The Hearts We Leave Behind, and Losing Adam.
It seems like if you're drawn to the style and themes of The Keeper of Stars, you might find his other works equally enjoyable.
They probably delved into similar themes of love, loss, and second chances.
Quite likely. The page also recommends other romance novels that people who listen to The Keeper of Stars also enjoyed.
So that helps to paint a picture of the target audience, people who gravitate towards this particular style of historical romance.
Exactly. It helps you gauge whether it aligns with your own reading preferences. Now, taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture, what elements of The Keeper of Stars truly stand out to you as particularly compelling?
I'd say the most intriguing element is that initial premise. Ellie receiving a novel from her first love that mirrors their past relationship. That blurring of reality and fiction right from the start. It's such a unique hook.
It really is. And then there's the whole mystery surrounding the hidden detail in the novel.
Right. The fact that this detail makes Ellie question everything she thought she knew about the relationship, that's huge.
Yeah.
It suggests a major revelation is coming.
Definitely keeps you on the edge of your seat, wondering what that revelation could be.
And let's not forget the connection to her aunt's death. It adds another layer of intrigue and raises the stakes beyond just a romantic reconciliation.
Absolutely. It makes you wonder, how does the reappearance of Jack in his novel tie into this family mystery? Are those events somehow connected?
It's like those parallel storylines are weaving a much larger, more complex tapestry.
Exactly. And the repeated comparisons to the Notebook, that can't be ignored. What does that tell you about this book?
It definitely sets a certain expectation. It gives you a sense of the emotional landscape you're stepping into. A story of enduring love, overcoming obstacles, maybe even a touch of tragic romance.
Right. And for readers who loved the Notebook, that comparison serves as a powerful draw, promising a similar kind of emotional experience.
Finally, what about those contrasting opinions we discussed earlier? What's the takeaway for you, the learner, when considering those different viewpoints?
The fact that you have some reviewers praising The Keeper of Stars as beautifully written and heartwarming, while others point out a slower pace or potential plot inconsistencies, really highlights the subjective nature of reading. What resonates with one person might not work for another.
Absolutely. And for you, the learner, those differing opinions provide a more balanced perspective. You see the potential strengths and weaknesses based on individual preferences.
It's a reminder that personal taste plays a huge role in how we connect with a story.
So, after this deep dive into the Audible page for The Keeper of Stars, what are the key takeaways for our listeners?
Well, we discovered that The Keeper of Stars is a historical romance novel set in the American South, with this really intriguing dual timeline involving a rediscovered first love and a mysterious family death.
And it's been very well received by readers, with many praising the story, characters, and emotional depth. But it's worth noting that some found the pacing slower and pointed out some potential inconsistencies in the plot.
Right. But overall, it seems like a story that stays with you.
Exactly. So for you, the learner, this deep dive has provided a thorough overview. You now have a good understanding of the core plot, the setting, the general reception from readers, and those intriguing elements like the hidden detail and the connection to Ellie's aunt.
You also have a sense of the pacing and writing style, which can help you decide if it's a good fit for you.
All in all, a pretty comprehensive look at what The Keeper of Stars offers.
And hopefully it saves you some time and effort in your own book selection process.
Now, one last thought to ponder. The title itself, The Keeper of Stars, paired with our protagonist, Ellie, being an astronomy professor, raises an intriguing question. In the grand scheme of the universe, with its vastness and seemingly predetermined celestial movements, do we as individuals have any real control over our own destinies, over the stories that shape our lives?
And what happens when someone tries to rewrite those stars, both literally out there in the cosmos and figuratively within the intricate tapestry of a shared past?
That's something to think about.
It is.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into The Keeper of Stars. We'll see you next time for another insightful exploration.